Welcome to the section on waivers for people with developmental disabilities. We're going to talk about the variety of supports and services that are available through waivers and how people become eligible for waiver supports and services. Virginia's waivers are built on the idea of individualized supports. Services are developed and funded based on a person-centered approach. Each person, with assistance if needed, chooses different types and levels of supports based on their desired goals, outcomes, choices, and needs. Most services are agency-directed services, in which the provider agency hires staff to work with a person. Some are consumer-directed services or self-directed services, in which the person, the individual, or their family employs the staff person themselves. People can use a combination. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Virginia recently redesigned the waivers for people with developmental disabilities, and there is now one process to qualify for and to access supports and services. These redesigned waivers provide more targeted, flexible, needs-based services. They create more choices and more opportunities. They promote consistency, equity, equality, accountability, and they increase in flexibility in service design. There are 3 waivers that support people with developmental disabilities: Community Living Waiver, Family and Individual Supports Waiver, and Building Independence Waiver. The Community Living Waiver is what a lot of our folks have. It includes 24/7 residential services for those that require that level of support. It includes services and supports for adults and children, including those with intense medical or behavioral needs. The Family and Individual Supports Waiver supports people who live with their family, their friends, or in their own home. And it provides supports to people with some medical or some behavioral needs and is available to both children and adults. And then we have the Building Independence Waiver, who supports adults 18 and older who are able to live in the community with minimal supports. So this waiver does not cover 24/7 residential services. People using this waiver usually own or rent or control their own living arrangements. Each of the options contains multiple services, which are available in one or more of the waivers. But all services are not available in all waivers, so you have to really research and talk with your support coordinator about or your supervisor about which options are covered under which. If your individual is talking with their support coordinator about changing waivers, be prepared to have that information and discuss with them what may or may not be covered under certain waivers. I'm going to click through these windows really quickly. Each one talks about which specific categories are covered under each or which services are covered under each section. So for this example, employment and alternate day options, that category is only covered under only covers these ones right here. This information can be found attached to the course at the bottom in the resource section. It's not important to have all of that information memorized, but it is important to know where to find it if you need it. To be eligible for waiver services, a person has to have a diagnosis of a developmental disability. They have to meet the financial eligibility per Medicaid. They have to meet the level of care criteria determined by the VIDES. That's the VIDES, VIDES. And it's the Virginia Individual Developmental Disability Eligibility Survey. And then they have to accept services within 30 days. Each individual who is slotted for waiver services gets to decide whether they want to provide or participate in the waiver program, what supports they want to receive, what services they want to receive, who they want to receive them from, all up to them. Each person who is enrolled in a waiver is assigned a support coordinator. Support coordinators can also be called case managers, and they usually work for or contract with the Community Service Board, or the CSB, that works in the area in which the person lives. The support coordinator is responsible for linking the person with service providers, as well as coordinating and monitoring the services that they receive. The support coordinator, the waiver service providers, so sponsors, day supports, whoever's covering and providing services under that, and the person's family members, friends, whoever is in their lives on a regular basis and they choose to be involved, come together to develop an individual support plan, or an ISP. The ISP is what will rule everything that we do with this individual. So we all get together as a support planning team and develop the ISP. Then the waiver services must be authorized by DDS, or the Division of Developmental Services. The support coordinator has to review the service plans from each service provider. So we would have our own plan for support that we would provide to contribute to the ISP. The plan for support is also called a Part 5. You will hear that frequently. It also rules everything that we do with the individual. So the support coordinator also ensures that the individual's choices are the focus and the driving force of the plan development. They are number one advocate for the individual, aside from the individual themselves. All waiver services must be delivered according to the ISP. So the ISP is up at the top. ISP, we all follow the ISP. That is written based on information that is important to and important for the person, in helping them live the most successful, meaningful life. As a team member, you're going to be contributing to the ISP, not only with the Part 5, your plan for supports, but also a personal profile, which is just a one-page personal description of the person, and it helps pull the team's focus on what's really important to the person, what is working and what needs to stay the same for the person, and what needs to change in order to have a good life. Each person using waiver services is assessed using something called the SIS, S-I-S, the Supports Intensity Scale. The scale is completed every 3 years with the person and with the group that gets together for the ISP annual meeting. So everyone that the individual deems important in their life and in their service development. So this scale, this support intensity scale, gives service providers consistent information about the people they support. It includes a risk assessment, which is done annually, as opposed to every 3 years, like the main part of the SIS. The risk assessment is done annually to help determine health and safety needs and help plan supports for especially serious medical or behavioral issues. Those are all addressed in the ISP in order to keep the individual safe and happy and healthy, because that's important for them, and then reaching all their dreams that are important to them. As I said, the planning team involves everybody that is important to the person that the person wants to be involved. If they want their cat there, they can have their cat there. It's up to the person. The Part 5, the plan for supports, is what we developed. Each service provider develops, and that's what we take data on each day, so that we can show progress or where we're having troubles in reaching each of the outcomes on the ISP. Then there's person-centered reviews, which happen quarterly. So the plan for supports, the Part 5, must be reviewed in writing once every 3 months to make sure it's still working for the person. This Part 5 is reviewed by using a PCR, or person-centered reviewed. person-centered review. This is just a report showing whether there's progress, what needs to be changed, what's not working, and then any changes that need to be made to the plan of supports that are per support input or because the individual wants a change. All of these things are documented on the person-centered reviews. You should now have a better grasp of the different waivers available to the population of people with developmental disabilities. Don't forget to take the waivers test attached to the assignment, and good luck.